Some whiskey going here. Should put that there. For Whom the Bell Tolls. Chapter 1. Oh well, before Chapter 1. No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manor of thy friends or of thine own were. Any man's death diminishes me, because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. John Donne. John Donne. Chapter 1. He lay flat on the brown, pine-needled floor of the forest, his chin on his folded arms, and high overhead the wind blew in the tops of the pine trees. The mountainside sloped gently where he lay, but below it was steep, and he could see the dark of the oiled road winding through the pass. There was a stream alongside the road, and far down the pass he saw a mill beside the stream, and the falling water of the dam, white in the summer sunlight. "Is that the mill?" he asked. "Yes. I do not remember it. It was built since you were here. The old mill is farther down, much below the pass." He spread the photo-stated military map out on the forest floor and looked at it carefully. The old man looked over his shoulder. He was a short and solid old man in a black peasant's smock and gray iron-stiff trousers, and he wore rope-soled shoes. He was breathing heavily from the climb, and his hand rested on one of the two heavy packs they had been carrying. "Then you cannot see the bridge from here?" "No," the old man said. "This is the easy country of the pass, where the stream flows gently. Below, where the road turns out of sight in the trees, it drops suddenly, and there is a steep gorge." "I remember." "Across this gorge is the bridge." "And where are there posts?" "There's a post at the mill that you see there." The young man, who was studying the country, took his glasses from the pocket of his faded khaki flannel shirt, wiped the lenses with a handkerchief, screwed the eyepieces around until the boards of the mill showed suddenly clearly, and he saw the wooden bench beside the door. The huge pile of sawdust that rose behind the open shed, where the circular saw was, and a stretch of the fume that brought the logs down from the mountainside on the other bank of the stream. The stream showed clear and smooth-looking in the glasses, and below the curl of the falling water, the spray from the dam was blowing in the wind. There is no sentry. There is smoke coming from the mill house, the old man said. There are also clothes hanging on a line. I see them, but I do not see any sentry. Perhaps he is in the shade, the old man explained. It is hot there now. He would be in the shadow at the end we do not see. Probably. Where is the next post? Below the bridge. It is at the roadmasters, the roadmenders. Hut, a kilometer, 5 from the top of the pass. How many men are here? He pointed at the mill. Perhaps 4 and a corporal. And below? More. I will find out. And at the bridge? Always 2, 1 at each end. We will need a certain number of men, he said. How many men can you get? I can bring as many men as you wish, the old man said. There are many men now here in the hills. How many? There are more than 100, but they are in small bands. How many men will you need? I will let you know when we have studied the bridge. Do you wish to study it now? No. Now I wish to go where we will hide this explosive until it is time. I would like to have it hidden in utmost security, at a distance no greater than half an hour from the bridge, if that is possible. That is simple, the old man said. From where we are going, it will all be downhill to the bridge. But now we must climb a little in a seriousness to get there. Are you hungry? Yes, the young man said, but we will eat later. How are you called? I have forgotten. It was a bad sign to him that I had forgotten. Anselmo, the old man said. I am called Anselmo, and I came from Barco de Avila. Let me help you with that pack. The young man, who was tall and thin, with sun-streaked fair hair and a wind and sunburned face, who wore the sun-faded flannel shirt, a pair of peasant's trousers, and rope-soled shoes, leaned over, put his arm through one of the leather pack straps, and swung the heavy pack up onto his shoulders. He worked his arm through the other strap, and settled the weight of the pack against his back. His shirt was still wet from where the pack had rested. I have it up now, he said. How do we go? We climb, Anselmo said. Bending under the weight of the packs, sweating, they climbed steadily in the pine forest that covered the mountainside. There was no trail that the young man could see, but they were working up and around the face of the mountain, and now they crossed a small stream, and the old man went steadily on ahead, up the edge of the rocky stream bed. The climbing now was steeper and more difficult, until finally the stream seemed to drop down over the edge of a smooth granite ledge that rose above them, and the old man waited at the foot of the ledge for the young man to come up to him. How are you making it? All right, the young man said. He was sweating heavily, and his thigh muscles were twitching from the steepness of the climb. Wait here now for me. I go ahead to warn them. You do not want to be shot at carrying that stuff. You do not want to be shot at carrying that stuff. Not even in a joke, the young man said. Is it far? It is very close. How do they call thee? Roberto, the young man answered. He had slipped the pack off and lowered it gently down between 2 boulders by the stream bed. Wait here, then, Roberto, and I will return for you. Good, the young man said. But do you plan to go down this way to the bridge. No. When we go to the bridge, it will be by another way, shorter and easier. I do not want this material to be stored too far from the bridge. You will see. If you are not satisfied, we will take another place. We will see, the young man said. He sat by the packs and watched the old man climb the ledge. It was not hard to climb, and from the way he found handholds without searching for them, the young man could see that he had climbed it many times before. Yet whoever was above had been very careful not to leave any trail. The young man, whose name was Robert Jordan, was extremely hungry, and he was worried. He was often hungry, but he was not usually worried because he did not give any importance to what happened to himself, and he knew from expert experience how simple it was to move behind the enemy lines in all this country. It was as simple to move behind them as it was to cross through them, if you had a good guide. It was only giving importance to what happened to you if you were caught that made it difficult. And deciding whom to trust. You had to trust the people you worked with completely, or not at all, and you had to make decisions about the trusting. He was not worried about any of that. But there were other things. This Anselmo had been a good guide, and he could travel wonderfully in the mountains. Robert Jordan could walk well enough himself, and he knew from following him since before daylight that the old man could walk him to death. Robert Jordan trusted the man, Anselmo, so far, in everything except judgment. He had not yet had an opportunity to test his judgment, and, anyway, the judgment was his own responsibility. No, he did not worry about Anselmo, and the problem of the bridge was no more difficult than many other problems. He knew how to blow any sort of bridge that you could name, and he had blown them all of all sizes and constructions. There was enough explosive and all equipment in the 2 packs to blow this bridge properly, even if it were twice as big as Anselmo reported it, as he remembered it when he had walked over it on his way to La Granja on a walking trip in 1933, and as Goals had read him the description of it night before last in that upstairs room in the house outside of the Escorial. To blow the bridge is nothing, Goals had said, the lamplight on his scarred shave head pointing with a pencil on the big map. You understand? Yes, I understand. Absolutely nothing. Merely to blow the bridge is a failure. Yes, Comrade General. To blow the bridge at a stated hour based on the time set for the attack is how it should be done. You see that naturally. That is your right and how it should be done. Goals looked at the pencil, then tapped his teeth with it. Robert Jordan had said nothing. You understand, that is your right and how it should be done. Goals went on, looking at him and nodding his head. He tapped on the map now with the pencil. That is how I should do it. That is what we cannot have. Why, Comrade General? Why? Goals said angrily. How many attacks have you seen, and you ask me why? What is to guarantee that my orders are not changed? What is to guarantee that the attack is not annulled? What is to guarantee that the attack is not postponed? What is to guarantee that it starts within 6 hours of when it should start? Has any attack ever been as it should? It will start on time, if it is your attack, Robert Jordan said. They are never my attacks, Goals said. I make them, but they are not mine. The artillery is not mine. I must put in for it. I have never been given what I ask for, even when they have it to give. That is the least of it. There are other things. You know how those people are? It is not necessary to go into all of it. Always there is something. Always someone will interfere. So, now be sure you understand. So when is the bridge to be blown? Robert Jordan had asked. After the attack starts. As soon as the attack has started and not before. So that no reinforcements will come up over that road. He pointed with the pencil. I must know that nothing will come up over that road. And when is the attack? I will tell you, but you are to use the date and hour only as an indication of probability. You must be ready for that time. You will blow the bridge after the attack has started. You see? He indicated it with the pencil. That is the only road on which they can bring up reinforcements. That is the only road on which they can get up tanks or artillery or even move a truck toward the pass which I attack. I must know that that bridge is gone. Not before. So it can be repaired if the attack is postponed. No, it must go when the attack starts, and I must know it is gone. There are only 2 centuries. The man who will go with you has just come from there. He is a very reliable man, they say. You will see. He has people in the mountains. Get as many men as you need. Use as few as possible, but use enough. I do not have to tell you these things. And how do I determine that the attack has started? It is to be made with a full division. There will be an aerial bombardment as preparation. You are not deaf, are you? Then I may take it that when the planes unload, the attack has started. You could not always take it. You could not always take it like that, Goals said, and shook his head. But in this case you may. It is my attack. I understand it, Robert Jordan had said. I do not say I like it very much. Neither do I like it very much. If you do not want to undertake it, say so now. If you think you cannot do it, say so now. I will do it, Robert Jordan had said. I will do it all right. That is all I have to know, Goals said. That nothing comes up over that bridge. That is absolute. I understand. I do not like to ask people to do such things and in such a way, Goals went on. I could not order you to do it. I understand what you may be forced to do through my putting such conditions. I explain very carefully so that you understand and that you understand all of the possible difficulties and the importance. And how will you advance on La Granja if the bridge is blown? We go forward prepared to repair it after we have stormed the pass. It is a very complicated and beautiful operation. As complicated and beautiful as always, and as beautiful as always. The plan has been manufactured in Madrid. It is another of Vicente Rojo, the unsuccessful professor's masterpiece. I make the attack, and I make it, as always, not in sufficient force. It is a very possible operation in spite of that. I am much happier about it than usual. I can be successful with that bridge eliminated. We can take Segovia. Look, I show you how it goes. You see, it is not the top of the pass where we attack. We hold that. It is much beyond. Look, here, like this. I would rather not go, Robert Jordan said. Good, said Goals. It is less of a baggage to carry with you on the other side, yes? I would always rather not go. Then, no matter what can happen, it was not me that talked. It is better not to know, Goals stroked his forehead with a pencil. Many times I wish I did not know myself. But you do know the one thing you must know about the bridge. Yes, I know that. I believe you do, Goals said. I will not make you any little speech. Let us now have a drink. So much talking makes me very thirsty, Comrade Horden. You have a funny name in Spanish, Comrade Hordown. How do you say goals in Spanish, Comrade General? Hotes, said Goals, grinning, making the sound in his throat as though hawking with a bad cold. Hotes, he croaked. Comrade General Hotes. If I had known how they pronounced goals in Spanish, I would pick me out a better name before I come to war here. When I think I come to command a division and I can pick out any name I want, and I pick out Hotes. General Hotes. Now it's too late to change. How do you like partisan work? It was the Russian term for guerrilla work behind the lines. Very much, Robert Jordan said. He grinned. It is very healthy in the open air. I like it very much. I like it very much when I was your age, too, Goals said. They tell me you blow bridges very well. Very scientific. It is only hearsay. I have never seen you do anything myself. Maybe nothing ever happens, really. You really blow them? He was teasing now. Drink this. He handed the glass of Spanish brandy to Robert Jordan. You really blow them. Sometimes. You better not have any sometimes on this bridge. No. Let us not talk any more about this bridge. You understand enough about that bridge. We are very serious, so we can make very strong jokes. Look, do you have many girls on the other side of the lines? No, there is no time for girls. I do not agree. The more irregular the service, the more irregular the life. You have very irregular service. Also, you need a haircut. I have my hair cut as it needs it, Robert Jordan said. He would be damned if he would have his head shaved like Goals. I have enough to think about without girls, he said sullenly. What sort of uniform am I supposed to wear? Robert Jordan asked. None, Goals said. Your haircut is all right. I tease you. You are very different from me. Goals had said and filled up the glasses again. You never think about only girls. I never think at all. Why should I? I am General Sovietique. Sovietique. I never think. Do not try to trap me into thinking. Someone on his staff, sitting on a chair, working over a map on a drawing board, growled at him in the language Robert Jordan did not understand. Shut up, Goals had said in English. I joke if I want. I am serious. I am so serious, is why I can joke. Now drink this and then go. You understand, huh? Yes, Robert Jordan had said. I understand. They had shaken hands, and he had saluted and gone out to the staff car, where the old man was waiting asleep. And in that car they had ridden over the road past Guadarrama, Guadarrama, the old man still asleep, and up the Navacerreda road to the Alpine Club hut, where he, Robert Jordan, slept for 3 hours before they started. That was the last he had seen of Goals, with his strange white face that never tanned, his hawk eyes, the big nose and thin lips, and the shaven head crossed with wrinkles and with scars. Tomorrow night they would be outside the Escorial, in the dark along the road. The long lines of trucks loading the infantry in the darkness, the men, heavy loaded, climbing up into the trucks, the machine gun sections lifting their guns into the trucks, the tanks being run up on the skids onto the long-bodied tank trucks, pulling the division out to move them in the night for the attack on the pass. He would not think about that. That was not his business. That was Goles's business. He had only one thing to do, and that was what he should think about, and he must think it out clearly and take everything as it came along, and not worry. To worry was as bad as to be afraid. It simply made things more difficult. He sat now by the stream, watching the clear water flowing between the rocks, and across the stream he noticed there was a thick bed of watercress. He crossed the stream, picked a double handful, washed the muddy roots clean in the current, and then sat down beside his pack and ate the clean, cool, green leaves and the crisp, peppery tasting stalks. He knelt by the stream, and pushing his automatic pistol around on his belt to the small of his back, so that it would not be wet, he lowered himself with a hand on each of two boulders and drank from the stream. The water was achingly cold. Pushing himself up on his hands, he turned his head and saw the old man coming down the ledge. With him was another man, also in a black peasant's smock, and the dark gray trousers that were almost a uniform in that province, wearing rope-soled shoes and with carbine slung over his back. This man was bare-headed. The two of them came scrambling down the rock like goats. They came up to him, and Robert Jordan got to his feet. "Salud, camarada," he said to the man with the carbine, and smiled. "Salud," the other said, grudgingly. Robert Jordan looked at the man's heavy, beard-stubbled face. It was almost round, and his head was round, and set close on his shoulders. His eyes were small and set too wide apart, and his ears were small and set close to his head. He was a heavy man, about 5 feet 10 inches tall, and his hands and feet were large. His nose had been broken, and his mouth was cut at one corner, and the line of the scar across the upper lip and lower jaw showed through the growth of beard over his face. The old man nodded his head at this man and smiled. "He is the boss here," he grinned, then flexed his arms as though to make the muscles stand out, and looked at the man with the carbine in a half-mocking admiration. A very strong man. I can see it, Robert Jordan said, and smiled again. He did not like the look of this man, and inside himself he was not smiling at all. What have you to justify your identity? Asked the man with the carbine. Robert Jordan unpinned a safety pin that ran through his pocket flap and took a folded paper out of the left breast pocket of his flannel shirt and handed it to the man, who opened it, looked at it doubtfully, and turned it in his hands. So he cannot read, Robert Jordan noted. Look at the seal, he said. The old man pointed to the seal, and the man with the carbine studied it, turning it in his fingers. What seal is that? Have you never seen it? No. There are two, said Robert Jordan. One is SIM, the Service of the Military Intelligence. The other is the General Staff. Yes, I have seen the seal before, but here no one commands but me, the other said sullenly. What have you in the packs? Dynamite, the old man said proudly. Last night we crossed the lines in the dark, and all day we have carried this dynamite over the mountain. I can use dynamite, said the man with the carbine. He handed back the paper to Robert Jordan and looked him over. Yes, I have use for dynamite. How much have you brought me? I have brought you no dynamite, Robert Jordan said to him evenly. The dynamite is for another purpose. What is your name? What is that to you? He is Pablo, said the old man. The man with the carbine looked at them both sullenly. Good. I have heard much good of you, said Robert Jordan. What have you heard of me? Asked Pablo. I have heard that you are an excellent guerrilla leader, that you are loyal to the Republic and prove your loyalty through your acts, and that you are a man both serious and valiant. I bring you greetings from the General Staff. Where did you hear all this? Asked Pablo. Robert Jordan registered that he was not taking any of the flattery. I heard it from Buitrago to the Escorial, he said, naming all the stretch of country on the other side of the lines. I know no one in Buitrago nor Escorial, Pablo told him. There are many there are many people on the other side of the mountains who were not there before. Where are you from? Avila. What are you going to do with the dynamite? Blow up a bridge. What bridge? That is my business. If it is in this territory, it is my business. You cannot blow bridges close to where you live. You must live in one place and operate in another. I know my business. One who is alive now, after a year, knows his business. This is my business, Robert Jordan said. We can discuss it together. Do you wish to help us with the sacks? No, said Pablo, and shook his head. The old man turned toward him suddenly and spoke rapidly and furiously in a dialect that Robert Jordan could just follow. It was like reading Quevedo. Anselmo was speaking Old Castilian, and it went something like this. Art thou a brute? Yes. Art thou a beast? Yes, many times. Hast thou a brain? Nay, none. Now we come for something of consummate importance, and thee, with thy dwelling place to be undisturbed, puts thy foxhole before the interests of humanity, before the interests of thy people. I, this and that, in the this and that of thy father. I, this and that in thy this. Pick up that bag. Pablo looked down. Everyone has to do what he can do according to how it can be truly done, he said. I live here, and I operate beyond Segovia. If you make a disturbance here, he will be hunted. We will be hunted down. We will be hunted out of these mountains. It is only by doing nothing here that we are able to live in these mountains. It is the principle of the fox. Yes, said Anselmo bitterly. It is the principle of the fox when we need the wolf. I am more wolf than thee, Pablo said, and Robert Jordan knew that he would pick up the sack. Hi, ho, Anselmo looked at him. Thou art more wolf than me, and I am 68 years old. He spat on the ground and shook his head. You have that many years? Robert Jordan asked, seeing that now, for the moment, it would be all right, and trying to make it go easier. 68 in the month of July. If we should ever see that month, said Pablo. Let me help you with the pack, he said to Robert Jordan. Leave the other to the old man. He spoke, not sullenly, but almost sadly now. He is an old man of great strength. I will carry the pack, Robert Jordan said. Nay, said the old man. Leave it to the other strong man. I will take it, Pablo told him. And in his sullenness, there was a sadness that was disturbing to Robert Jordan. He knew that sadness, and to see it here worried him. Give me the carbine, then, he said. And when Pablo handed it to him, he slung it over his back, and, with the two men climbing ahead of him, they went heavily, pulling and climbing up the granite shelf and over its upper edge to where there was a green clearing in the forest. They skirted the edge of the little meadow, and Robert Jordan, striding easily now with the pack, the carbine pleasantly rigid over his shoulder after the heavy, sweating pack weight, noticed that the grass was cropped down in several places, and signs that picket pins had been driven into the earth. He could see a trail through the grass where horses had been led to the stream to drink, and there was the fresh manure of several horses. They picket them here to feed at night and keep them out of sight in the timber in the daytime, he thought. I wonder how many horses this Pablo has. He remembered now, noticing, without realizing it, that Pablo's trousers were worn, soapy, shiny in the knees and thighs. I wonder if he has a pair of boots, or if he rides in those alpargutas, he thought. He must have quite an outfit. But I don't like that sadness, he thought. That sadness is bad. That's the sadness they get before they quit, or before they betray. That is the sadness that comes before they sell out. Ahead of them, a horse whinnied in the timber, and then, through the brown trunks of the pine trees, only a little sunlight coming down through their thick, almost touching tops, He saw the corral made by roping around the tree trunks. The horses had their heads pointed toward the men as they approached, and at the foot of the tree, outside the corral, the saddles were piled together and covered with a tarpaulin. Tarpaulin. As they came up, the two men with the packs stopped, and Robert Jordan knew it was for him to admire the horses. Yes, he said, they are beautiful. He turned to Pablo. You have your cavalry and all. There were 5 horses in the rope corral, 3 bays, a sorrel, and a buckskin. Sorting them out carefully with his eyes after he had seen them first together, Robert Jordan looked them over individually. Pablo and Anselmo knew how good they were, and while Pablo stood, now proud and less sad looking, watching them lovingly, the old man acted as though they were some great surprise that he had produced suddenly of himself. How do they look to you? He asked. All these I have taken, Pablo said, and Robert Jordan was pleased to hear him speak proudly. That, said Robert Jordan, pointing to one of the bays, a big stallion, with a white blaze on his forehead and a single white foot, the near front, is Much Horse. He was a beautiful horse that looked as though he had come out of a painting by Velasquez. 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 They are all good, said Pablo. You know horses. Yes. Less bad, said Pablo. Do you see a defect in one of these? Robert Jordan knew that now his papers were being examined by the man who could not read. The horses all still had their heads up looking at the man. Robert Jordan slipped through between the double rope of the corral and slapped the buckskin on the haunch. He leaned back against the ropes of the enclosure and watched the horses circle the corral. Stood watching them a minute more as they stood still, then leaned down and came out through the ropes. The sorrel is lame in the off hind foot, he said to Pablo, not looking at him. The hoof is split, and although it might not get worse soon, if shod properly, could break down. And the hoof is split, and although it might not get worse soon if shod properly, she could break down if she travels over much hard ground. The hoof was like that when we took her, Pablo said. The best horse that you have, the white-faced bay stallion, has a swelling on the upper part of the cannon bone. I do not like that. Bone that I do not like. It is nothing, said Pablo. He knocked it 3 days ago. If it were to be anything, it would have become so already. He pulled back the tarpaulin and showed the saddles. There were 2 ordinary vaqueros, or herdsmen's saddles, like American stock saddles, one very ornate vaqueros saddle with hand-tooled leather and heavy hooded stirrups, and 2 military saddles in black leather. We killed a pair of Guardia Civil, he said, explaining the military saddles. That is big game. They had dismounted on the road between Segovia and Santa Maria del Real. They had dismounted to ask papers of the driver of a cart. We were able to kill them without injuring the horses. Have you killed many civil guards? Robert Jordan asked. Several, Pablo said, but only these two without injury to the horses. It was Pablo who blew up the train at Aravello, Anselmo said. That was Pablo. There was a foreigner with us who made the explosion, Pablo said. Do you know him? What is he called? I do not remember. It was a very rare name. What did he look like? He was fair, as you are, but not as tall, and with large hands and a broken nose. Kashkin, Robert said. That would be Kashkin. Yes, said Pablo. It was a very rare name, something like that. What has become of him? He is dead since April. That is what happens to everybody, Pablo said gloomily. That is why the way we will that is the way we will all finish. That is the way all men end, Anselmo said. That is the way men have always ended. What is the matter with you, man? What hast thou in the stomach? They are very strong, Pablo said. It was as though he was talking to himself. He looked at the horses gloomily. You do not realize how strong they are. I see them always stronger, always better armed, always with more material. Here am I with horses like these. And what can I look forward to? To be hunted and to die. Nothing more. You hunt as much as you are hunted, Anselmo said. No, said Pablo, not any more. And if we leave these mountains now, where can we go? Answer me that. Where now? In Spain there are many mountains. There are the Sierra de Gredos, if one leaves here. Not for me, Pablo said. I am tired of being hunted. Here we are, all right. Now, if you blow a bridge here, we will be hunted. If they know we are here and hunt for us with planes, they will find us. If they send Moors to hunt us out, they will find us, and we must go. I am tired of all this. You hear? He turned to Robert Jordan. What right have you, a foreigner, to come to me and tell me what I must do? I have not told you anything you must do, Robert Jordan said to him. You will, though, Pablo said. There. There is the badness. He pointed at the two heavy packs that they had lowered to the ground while they had watched the horses. Seeing the horses had seemed to bring this all to a head in him, and seeing Robert Jordan, new horses, had seemed to loosen his tongue. The three of them stood now by the rope corral, and the patchy sunlight shone on the coat of the bay stallion. Pablo looked at him, and then pushed with his foot against the heavy pack. There is the badness. I come only for my duty, Robert Jordan told him. I come under orders from those who are conducting the war. If I ask you to help me, you can refuse, and I will find others who will help me. I have not even asked you for help yet. I have to do what I am ordered to do, and I can promise you of its importance. That I am a foreigner is not my fault. I would rather have been born here. To me, now, the most important is that we be not disturbed here, Pablo said. To me, now, my duty is to those who are with me and to myself. Thyself, yes, Anselmo said. Thyself, now, since a long time. Thyself and thy horses. Until thou hadst horses, thou wert with us. Now thou art another capitalist more. That is unjust, said Pablo. I expose the horses all the time for the cause. Very little, said Anselmo scornfully. Very little, in my judgment. To steal, yes. To eat well, yes. To murder, yes. To fight, no. You are an old man who will make himself trouble with his mouth. I am an old man who is afraid of no one, Anselmo told him. Also, I am an old man without horses. You are an old man who may not live long. I am an old man who will live until I die, Anselmo said, and I am not afraid of foxes. Pablo said nothing, but picked up the pack. Nor of wolves either, Anselmo said, picking up the other pack. If thou art a wolf. Shut thy mouth, Pablo said to him. Thou art an old man who always talks too much. And would do whatever he said he would do, Anselmo said, bent under the pack. And who now is hungry and thirsty. Go on, guerrilla leader with the sad face, lead us to something to eat. It is starting badly enough, Robert Jordan thought, but Anselmo's a man. They are wonderful when they are good, he thought. There is no people like them when they are good, and when they go bad, there is no people that is worse. Anselmo must have known what he was doing when he brought us here, but I don't like it. I don't like any of it. The only good sign was that Pablo was carrying the pack and that he had given him the carbine. Perhaps he is always like that, Robert Jordan thought. Maybe he is just one of the gloomy ones. No, he said to himself, don't fool yourself. You do not know how he was before, but you do know that he is going bad fast and without hiding it. When he starts to hide it, he will have made a decision. Remember that, he told himself. The first friendly thing he does, he will have made a decision. They are awfully good horses, though, he thought. Beautiful horses. I wonder what could make me feel the way those horses make Pablo feel. The old man was right. The horses made him rich, and as soon as he was rich, he wanted to enjoy life. Pretty soon he'll feel bad because he can't join the jockey club, I guess, he thought. Pauvre Pablo, il a manqué son jockey. That idea made him feel better. He grinned, looking at the two bent packs and the big packs ahead of him moving through the trees. He had not made any jokes with himself all day, and now that he had made one, he felt much better. You are getting to be all the rest of them. You are getting to be as all the rest of them, he told himself. You're getting gloomy, too. He'd certainly been gloomy, and gloomy with goals. The job had overwhelmed him a little. Slightly overwhelmed, he thought. Plenty overwhelmed. Goals was gay, and he had wanted him to be gay, too, before he left. But he hadn't been. All the best ones, when you thought when you thought it over, were gay. It was much better to be gay, and it was a sign of something too. It was like having immortality while you were still alive. That was a complicated one. There were not many of them left, though. No, there were not many of the gay ones left. There were very damned few of them left. And if you keep on thinking like that, my boy, you won't be left either. Turn off the thinking now, old timer, old comrade. You're a bridge blower now, not a thinker. Man, I'm hungry, he thought. I hope Pablo eats well. Chapter 2. They had come through the heavy timber to the cup shaped, upper end of the little valley, and he saw where the camp must be under the rim rock that rose ahead of them through the trees. That was the camp, all right, and it was a good camp. You did not see it at all until you were up to it, and Robert Jordan knew it could not be spotted from the air. Nothing would show from above. It was as well hidden as a bear's den, but it seemed to be little better guarded. He looked at it carefully as they came up. There was a large cave in the rimrock formation, and beside the opening a man sat with his back against the rock, his legs stretched out on the ground, and his carbine leaning against the rock. He was cutting away on a stick with a knife, and he stared at them as they came up, then went on whittling. "Hola," said the seated man. "What is this that comes?" "The old man and a dynamiter," Pablo told him, and lowered the pack inside the entrance to the cave. Anselmo lowered his pack too, and Robert Jordan unslung the rifle and leaned it against the rock. "Don't leave it so close to the cave," the whittling man, who had blue eyes and a dark, good-looking, lazy gypsy face, the color of smoked leather, said. "There is a fire in there. Get up and put it away thyself," Pablo said. "Put it by that tree." The gypsy did not move, but said something unprintable. Then, "Leave it there. Blow thyself up," he said lazily. "'Twill cure thy diseases." "What do you make?" Robert Jordan sat down by the gypsy. The gypsy showed him. It was a figure for trap, and hello, Gonza. "'Twill cure thy disease." "What do you make?" Robert Jordan sat down by the gypsy. The gypsy showed him. It was a figure four trap, and he was whittling the crossbar for it. "For foxes," he said. "With a log for a deadfall. It breaks their backs." He grinned at Jordan. "Like this, see?" He made a motion of the framework of the trap collapsing, the log falling, then shook his head, drew in his hand, and spread his arms to show the fox with a broken back. "Very practical," he explained. "I'm good, man. How are you?" "He catches rabbits," Anselmo said. "He is a gypsy, so if he catches rabbits, he says it is foxes. If he catches foxes, he would say it was an elephant. And if I catch an elephant?" The gypsy asked and showed his white teeth again and winked at Robert Jordan. "You'd say it was a tank," Anselmo told him. "I'll get a tank," the gypsy told him. "I will get a tank, and you can say it is what you please." "Gypsies talk much and kill little," Anselmo told him. The gypsy winked at Robert Jordan and went on whittling. Pablo had gone in and out of sight in the cave. Robert Jordan hoped he had gone for food. He sat on the ground by the gypsy, and the afternoon sunlight came through the treetops and was warm on his outstretched legs. He could smell food now in the cave, the smell of oil and of onions and of meat frying, and his stomach moved with hunger inside of him. We can get drunk, he said to the gypsy. It is not too difficult. With this, the gypsy pointed toward the two sacks. Yes, Robert Jordan told him. I will teach you. You make a trap. It is not too difficult. You and me? Sure, said Robert Jordan. Why not? Hey, the gypsy said to Anselmo, move those two sacks to where they will be safe, will you? They are valuable. Anselmo grunted. I am going for wine, he told Robert Jordan. Robert Jordan got up and lifted the sacks away from the cave entrance and leaned them, one on each side of a tree trunk. He knew what was in them, and he never liked to see them close together. Bring a cup for me, the gypsy told him. Is there wine? Robert Jordan asked, sitting down again by the gypsy. Wine? Why not? A whole skinful. Half a skinful, anyway. And what to eat? Everything, man, the gypsy said. We eat like generals. And what do gypsies do in the war? Robert Jordan asked him. They keep on being gypsies. That's a good job. Oh, man. I'm trying to project my voice more when I'm reading this stuff, but it's exhausting. Guess I'll just read it the way I feel like reading it. The best, the gypsy said. How do they call thee? Roberto. And thee? Raphael. And this is of the tank. And this of the tank is Sirius? Surely, why not? Anselmo came out of the mouth of the cave with a deep stone basin full of red wine and with his fingers through the handles of 3 cups. Look, he said, they have cups and all. Pablo came out behind them. There's food soon, he said. Do you have tobacco? Robert Jordan went over to the packs and, opening one, felt inside an inner pocket and brought out one of the flat boxes of Russian cigarettes he had gotten at Gulz's headquarters. He ran his thumb around the edge of the box and, opening the lid, handed them to Pablo, who took half a dozen. Pablo, holding them in one of his huge hands, picked one up and looked at it against the light. They were long, narrow cigarettes with pasteboard cylinders for mouthpieces. Much air and little tobacco, he said. I know these. The other with the rare name had them. Kashkin, Robert Jordan said, and offered the cigarettes to the gypsy and Anselmo, who each took one. Take more, he said, and they each took another. He gave them each 4 more. Take more, he said, and they each took another. He gave them each 4 more, they making a double nod with the hand holding the cigarettes, so that the cigarette dipped its end as a man salutes with a sword to thank him. He gave them each 4 more, they making a double nod with the hand holding the cigarettes. The cigarette dipped its end as a man salutes with a sword to thank him. Yes, Pablo said. It was a rare name. Here is the wine, Anselmo dipped a cup out of the bowl and handed it to Robert Jordan, then dipped for himself and the gypsy. Is there no wine for me? Pablo asked. They were all sitting together by the cave entrance. Anselmo handed him his cup and went into the cave for another. Coming out, he leaned over the bowl and dipped the cup full, and they all touched cup edges. The wine was good, tasting faintly resinous from the wineskin, but excellent, light and clean on his tongue. Robert Jordan drank it slowly, feeling it spread warmly through his tiredness. The food comes shortly, Pablo said. And this foreigner, with the rare name, how did he die? He was captured, and he killed himself. How did that happen? He was wounded, and he did not wish to be a prisoner. What were the details? I don't know. He lied. He knew the details very well, and he knew they would not make good talking now. He made us promise to shoot him in case he were wounded at the business of the train and should be unable to get away, Pablo said. He spoke in a very rare manner. He must have been jumpy even then, Robert Jordan thought. Poor old Kashkin. He had a prejudice against killing himself, Pablo said. He told me that. Also, he had a great fear of being tortured. Did he tell you that, too? Robert Jordan asked him. Yes, the gypsy said. He spoke like that to all of us. Were you at the train, too? Yes, all of us were at the train. He spoke in a very rare manner, Pablo said, but he was very brave. Poor old Kashkin, Robert Jordan thought. He must have been doing more harm than good around here. I wish I would have known he was that jumpy as far back as then. They should have pulled him out. You can't have people around doing this sort of work and talking like that. That is no way to talk. Even if they accomplish their mission, they are doing more harm than good, talking that sort of stuff. He was a little strange, Robert Jordan said. I think he was a little crazy, but very dexterous at producing explosions, the gypsy said, and very brave. but crazy, Robert Jordan said. In this you have to be very much you have i- in this you have to have very much head and be very cold in the head. That was no way to talk. And you, Pablo said, if you are wounded in such a thing as this bridge, you would be willing to be left behind. Listen, Robert Jordan said, and leaning forward, he dipped himself another cup of the wine. Listen to me clearly. If ever I should have any little favors to ask of any man, I will ask him at the time. Good, said the gypsy approvingly. In this way speak the good ones. Ah, here it comes. You have eaten, said Pablo. And I can eat twice more, the gypsy told him. Look now who brings it. The girl stopped as she came out of the cave, mouth carrying the big iron cooking platter, and Robert Jordan saw her face turned at an angle, and at the same time saw the strange thing about her. She smiled and said, Hola, comrade. And Robert Jordan said, Salute, and was careful not to stare and not to look away. She set down the flat iron platter in front of him, and he noticed her handsome brown hands. Now she looked him full in the face and smiled. Her teeth were white in her brown face, and her skin and her eyes were the same golden tawny brown. She had high cheekbones, merry eyes, and a straight mouth with full lips. Her hair was the golden brown of a grain field that has been burned dark in the sun, but it was cut short all over her head so that it was but longer than the fur of a beaver pelt. She smiled in Robert Jordan's face and put her brown hand up and ran it over her head, flattening the hair which rose again as her hand passed. She had a beautiful face, Robert Jordan thought. She'd be beautiful if she hadn't cropped her hair. That is the way I comb it, she said to Robert Jordan, and laughed. Go ahead and eat. Don't stare at me. They gave me this haircut in Valladolid. 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 It's almost grown out now. She sat down opposite him and looked at him. He looked back at her, and she smiled and folded her hands together over her knees. Her legs slanted long and clean from the open cuffs of the trousers as she sat with her hands across her knees, and he could see the shape of her small up-tilted breasts under the gray shirt. Every time Robert Jordan looked at her, he could feel a thickness in his throat. There are no plates, Anselmo said. Use your own knife. The girl had leaned 4 forks, tines down against the sides of the iron dish. They were all eating out of the platter, not speaking, as is the Spanish custom. It was rabbit, cooked with onions and green peppers, and there were chickpeas in the red wine sauce. It was well cooked, The rabbit meat flaked off the bones, and the sauce was delicious. Robert Jordan drank another cup of wine while he ate. The girl watched him all through the meal. Everyone else was watching his food and eating. Robert Jordan wiped up the last of the sauce in front of him with a piece of bread, piled the rabbit bones to one side, wiped the spot where they had been for sauce, then wiped his fork clean with the bread, wiped his knife and put it away and ate the bread. He leaned over and dipped his cup full of wine, and the girl still watched him. Robert Jordan drank half the cup of wine, but the thickness still came in his throat when he spoke to the girl. "How art thou called?" he asked. Pablo looked at him quickly when he heard the tone of his voice. Then he got up and walked away. "Maria." "And thee?" "Roberto." "Have you been long in the mountains?" 3 months. 3 months? He looked at her hair. That was as thick and short and rippling when she passed her hand over it, now in embarrassment, as a grain field in the wind on a hillside. "It was shaved," she said. "They shaved it regularly in the prison at Valladolid. Valladolid. It has taken 3 months to grow to this. I was on the train. They were taking me to the south. Many of the prisoners were caught after the train was blown up, but I was not. I came with these." "I found her hidden in the rocks," the gypsy said. "It was when we were leaving. Man, but this one was ugly. We took her along, but many times I thought we would have to leave her." "And the other one who was with them at the train?" asked Maria. "The other blonde one, the foreigner. Where is he?" "Dead," Robert Jordan said, "in April." "In April?" The train was in April. "Yes," Robert Jordan said. "He died 10 days after the train." "Poor man," she said. "He was very brave. And you do that same business?" "Yes." "You have done trains too?" "Yes, 3 trains." In the cave, the girl... In the cave. The girl can cook a little. I said she cooks well to please her, but mostly she helps the mujer of Pablo. "And how is she, the mujer of Pablo?" "Something barbarous," the gypsy grinned. "Something very barbarous. If you think Pablo is ugly, you should see his woman. But brave. 100 times braver than Pablo. But something barbarous." "Pablo was brave in the beginning," Anselmo said. "Pablo was something serious in the beginning." "He killed more people than cholera," the gypsy said. "At the start of the movement, Pablo killed more people than the typhoid fever. But since a long time he is muy flojo," Anselmo said. "He is very flaccid. He is very much afraid to die." "It is possible that it is because he has killed so many at the beginning," the gypsy said philosophically. "Pablo killed more than the bubonic plague." "That and the riches," Anselmo said. "Also, he drinks very much now. Now he would like to retire like a matador de toros, like a bullfighter. but he cannot retire. If he crosses to the other side of the lines, they will take his horses and make him go in the army, the gypsy said. In me there is no love for being in the army either. Nor is there in any other gypsy, Anselmo said. Why would there be, the gypsy said. Who wants to be in an army? Do we make the revolution to be in an army? I am willing to fight, but not to be in an army. Where are the others? Asked Robert Jordan. He felt comfortable and sleepy now from the wine, and lying back on the floor of the forest, he saw through the treetops the small afternoon clouds of the mountains moving slowly in the high Spanish sky. There are 2 asleep in the cave, the gypsy said. 2 are on guard above where we have the gun. 1 is on guard below. They are probably all asleep. Robert Jordan rolled over on his side. What kind of gun is it? A very rare name, the gypsy said. It has gone away from me for the moment. It is a machine gun. It must be an automatic rifle, Robert Jordan thought. How much does it weigh? He asked. One man can carry it, but it is heavy. It has 3 legs that fold. We got it in the last serious raid, the one before the wine. How many rounds have you for it? An infinity, the gypsy said. 1 whole case of unbelievable heaviness. Sounds like about 500 rounds, Robert Jordan thought. Does it feed from a pan or a belt? From round iron cans on the top of the gun. Hell, it's a Lewis gun, Robert Jordan thought. Do you know anything about a machine gun? He asked the old man. Nada, said Anselmo. Nothing. And thou? To the gypsy. That they fire with much rapidity, and it becomes so hot. The barrel burns the hand that touches it, the gypsy said proudly. Everyone knows that, Anselmo said with contempt. Perhaps, the gypsy said. But he asked me to tell what I know about Machina, and I told him. Then he added, also, unlike an ordinary rifle, they continue to fire as long as you exert pressure on the trigger. Unless they jam, run out of ammunition, or get so hot they melt, Robert Jordan said in English. What do you say? Anselmo asked him. Nothing, Robert Jordan said. I was only looking into the future in English. That is something truly rare, the gypsy said, looking into the future in English. Can you read in the palm of the hand? No, Robert Jordan said, and he dipped another cup of wine. But if thou canst, I wish thee would read in the palm of my hand, and tell me what is going to pass in the next 3 days. The mujer of Pablo reads in the hands, the gypsy said, but she is so irritable and of such a barbarousness that I do not know if she will do it. Robert Jordan sat up now and took a swallow of the wine. Let us see the mujer of Pablo now, he said. If it is that bad, let us get it over with. I would not disturb her, Raphael said. She has a strong hatred for me. Why? She treats me as a time waster. What injustice, Anselmo taunted. She is against gypsies. What an error, Anselmo said. She has gypsy blood, Raphael said. She knows of what she speaks. He grinned. But she has a tongue that scalds and that bites like a bullwhip. With this tongue she takes the hide from anyone, in stripes. She is of an unbelievable barbarousness. How did she get along with the girl, Maria? Robert Jordan asked. Good. She likes the girl. But let anyone come near her seriously. He shook his head and clucked with his tongue. She is very good with the girl, Anselmo said. She takes good care of her. When we picked the girl up at the time of the train, she was very strange, Raphael said. She would not speak, and she cried all the time, and if anyone touched her, she would shiver like a wet dog. Only lately she has been better. Lately she has been much better. Today she was fine. Just now, talking to you, she was very good. We would have left her after the train, certainly. It was not worth being delayed by something so sad and ugly and apparently worthless. But the old woman tied a rope to her, and when the girl thought she could not go further, the old woman beat her with the end of the rope to make her go. Then when she could not really go further, the old woman carried her over her shoulder. When the old woman could not carry her, I carried her. We were going up that hill breast high in the gorse and heather, and when I could not no longer carry her, Pablo carried her. But what the old woman had to say to us to make us do it. He shook his head at the memory. It is true that the girl is long in the legs, but is not heavy. The bones are light, and she weighs little. But she weighs enough that we had to carry her, and stop to fire, and then carry her again, and again, with the old woman lashing at Pablo with the rope, and carrying his rifle, putting it in his hand, when he would drop the girl, making him pick her up again, and loading the gun for him while she cursed him, taking the shells from his pouches and shoving them down into the magazine and cursing him. The dusk was coming well on then, and when the night came it was all right. But it was lucky that they had no cavalry. It must have been very hard at the train, Anselmo said. I was not there, he explained to Robert Jordan. There was the band of Pablo, of El Sordo, whom we will see tonight, and two other bands of these mountains. I had gone to the other side of the lines. In addition to the blonde, one with the rare name, the gypsy said, Gashkin. Yes, this name I can never dominate. We had two with a machine gun. They were sent also by the army. They could not get the gun away and lost it. Certainly it weighed no more than that girl, and if the old woman had been over them, they would have gotten it away. He shook his head, remembering. Then went on. Never in my life have I seen such a thing as when the explosion was produced. The train was coming steadily. We saw it far away, and I had an excitement so great that I cannot tell it. We saw steam from it, and then later came the noise of the whistle. Then it came, steadily closer and larger, and then, at the moment of the explosion, the front wheels of the engine rose up, and all of the earth seemed to rise in a great cloud of blackness. And a roar of the engine rose high in the cloud of dirt, and the wooden ties rising in the air as in a dream, and then it fell onto its side like a great wounded animal, and there was an explosion of white steam before the clods of the other explosion had ceased to fall on us, and the machina commenced to speak. Tat 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 tat. When the gypsy, shaking his two clenched fists up and down in front of him, thumbs up on an imaginary machine gun. Tat 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 tat. He exulted. Never in my life have I seen such a thing, with the troops running from the train and the machina speaking into them and the men following. It was then that I put my hand on the machina in my excitement and discovered that the barrel burned, and at that moment the old woman slapped me on the side of the face. And said, "Shoot, you fool, shoot, or I will kick your brains in." Then I commenced to shoot, but it was very hard to hold my gun steady, and the troops were running up the far hill. Later, after we had been down at the train to see what there was to take, an officer forced some troops back towards us at the point of a pistol. He kept waving the pistol and shouting at them, and we were all shooting at him, but no one hit him. Then some troops lay down and commenced firing, and the officer walked up and down behind them with his pistol, and still we could not hit him, and the machina could not fire on him because of the position of the train. The officer shot two men as they lay, and still they would not get up, and he was cursing them, and finally they got up, 1, 2, and 3 at a time, and came running toward us and the train. Then they lay flat again and fired. When we left with the machina, still speaking over us as we left, it was then I found the girl where she had run from the train to the rocks, and she ran with us. It was those troops who hunted us until that night. It must have been something very hard, Anselmo said, of much emotion. It was the only good thing we have done, said a deep voice. What are you doing now, you lazy, drunken, obscene, unsayable son of an unnameable, unmarried gypsy obscenity? What are you doing? Robert Jordan saw a woman of about 50, almost as big as Pablo, almost as wide as she was tall, in black peasant skirt and waist, with heavy wool socks on heavy legs, black rope-soled shoes, and a brown face like a model for a granite monument. She had big but nice-looking hands, and her thick, curly, black hair was twisted into a knot on her neck. "Answer me," she said to the gypsy, ignoring the others. "I was talking to these comrades. This one comes as a dynamiter. I know all that," the mujer of Pablo said. "Get out of here now and relieve Andres, who is on guard at the top." "Me voy," the gypsy said. "I go." He turned to Robert Jordan. "I will see thee at the hour of eating." "Not even in a joke," said the woman to him. 3 times you have eaten today according to my count. Go now and send me Andres. Hola, she said to Robert Jordan, and put out her hand and smiled. How are you, and how is everything in the Republic? Good, he said, and returned her strong hand grip. Both with me and with the Republic. I am happy, she told him. She was looking into his face and smiling, and he noticed she had fine gray eyes. Do you come for us to do another train? No, said Robert Jordan, trusting her instantly. For a bridge. No es nada, she said. A bridge is nothing. When do we do another train, now that we have horses? Later. The bridge is of great importance. The girl told me your comrade was with us at the train. Who was with us at the train is dead. Yes. What a pity. Never have I seen such an explosion. He was a man of talent. He pleased me very much. It is not possible to do another train now. There are many men now here now in the hills. Too many. It is already hard to get food. It would be better to get out, and we have horses. We have to do this bridge. Where is it? Quite close. All the better, the mujer of Pablo said. Let us blow all the bridges there are here and get out. I am sick of this place. Here is too much concentration of people. No good can come of it. Here is a stagnation that is repugnant. She sighted Pablo through the trees. Borracho, she called to him. Drunkard. Rotten drunkard. She turned back to Robert Jordan cheerfully. He's taken a leather wine bottle to drink alone in the woods, she said. He's drinking all the time. This life is ruining him. Young man, I am very content that you have come. She clapped him on the back. Ah, she said, you're bigger than you look, and ran her hand over his shoulder, feeling the muscle under the flannel shirt. Good. I am very content that you have come. And I equally. We will understand each other, she said. Have a cup of wine. We have already had some, Robert Jordan said. But will you? Not until dinner, she said. It gives me heartburn. Then she sighted Pablo again. Borracho, she shouted. Drunkard. She turned to Robert Jordan and shook her head. He was a very good man, she told him. But now he is terminated. And listen to me about another thing. Be very good and careful about the girl, the Maria. She has had a bad time. Understandest thou? Yes. Why do you say this? I saw how she was from seeing thee when she came into the cave. I saw her watching thee before she came out. I joked with her a little. She was in a very bad state, the woman of Pablo said. Now she is better. She ought to get out of here. Clearly, she can be sent through the lines with Anselmo. You and the Anselmo can take her with this when this terminates. Robert Jordan felt the ache in his throat and his voice thickening. That might be done, he said. The mujer of Pablo looked at him and shook her head. Ay, she said. Are all men like that? I said nothing. She is beautiful, you know that. No, she is not beautiful, but she begins to be beautiful, you mean. The woman of Pablo said, Men, it is a shame to us women that we make them. No, in seriousness, are there not homes to care for such as her under the Republic? Yes, said Robert Jordan. Good places. On the coast, near Valencia. In other places, too. There they will treat her well, and she can work with children. There are the children from evacuated villages. They will teach her the work. That is what I want, the mujer of Pablo said. Pablo has a sickness for her already. It is another thing which destroys him. It lies on him like a sickness when he sees her. It is best that she goes now. We can take her after this is over. And you will be careful of her now, if I trust you. I speak to you as though I knew you for a long time. It is like that, Robert Jordan said, when people understand one another. Sit down, the woman of Pablo said. I do not ask any promise because what will happen will happen. Only if you will not take her out, then I ask a promise. Why if I would not take her? Because I do not want her crazy here after you will go. I have had her crazy before, and I have enough without that. We will take her after the bridge, Robert Jordan said. If we are alive after the bridge, we will take her. Hello, Zukertort. I do not like to hear you speak in that manner. That manner of speaking never brings luck. I spoke in that manner only to make a promise, Robert Jordan said. I am not of those who speak gloomily. Let me see thy hand, the woman said. Robert Jordan put his hand out, and the woman opened it, held it in her own big hand, and rubbed her thumb over it and looked at it carefully, then dropped it. She stood up. He got up too and looked at her. He got up too, and she looked at him without smiling. What did you see in it? Robert Jordan asked her. I don't believe in it. You won't scare me. Nothing, she told him. I saw nothing in it. Yes, you did. I am only curious. I do not believe in such things. In what do you believe? In many things, but not in that. In what? In my work. Yes, I saw that. Tell me what else you saw. I saw nothing else, she said bitterly. The bridge is very difficult, you said. No, I said it is very important. But it can be difficult? Yes, and now I go down to look at it. How many men have you here? 5 that are any good. The gypsy is worthless, although his intentions are good. He has a good heart. Pablo is no longer trust. How many men has El Sordo that are good? Perhaps 8. We will see tonight. He is coming here. He is a very practical man. He also has some dynamite. Not very much, though. You will speak with him. Have you sent for him? He comes every night. He is a neighbor, also a friend, as well as a comrade. What do you think of him? He is a very good man, also very practical in the business of the train. He was enormous. And in other bands? Advising them in time, it should be possible to unite 50 rifles of a certain dependability. How dependable? Dependable within the gravity of the situation. And how many cartridges per rifle? Perhaps 20, depending how many they would bring for this business. If they would come for this business, remember that in this of a bridge there is no money and no loot, and in thy reservations of talking much danger, and that afterwards there must be a moving from these mountains. Many will oppose this of the bridge. Clearly. In this way it is better not to speak of it unnecessarily. I am in accord. Then after thou hast studied thy bridge, we will talk tonight with El Sordo. I go down now with Anselmo. Wake him, then, she said. Do you want a carbine? Thank you, he told her. It is good to have, but I will not use it. I go to look, not to make disturbances. Thank you for what you have told me. I like very much your way of speaking. I tried to speak frankly. Then tell me what you saw in the hand. No, she said, and shook her head. I saw nothing. Go now to thy bridge. I will look after thy equipment. Cover it, and that no one should touch it. It is better there than in the cave. It shall be covered, and no one shall touch it. The woman of Pablo said, Go now to thy bridge. Anselmo, Robert Jordan said, putting his hand on the shoulder of the old man who lay sleeping, his head on his arms. The old man looked up. Yes, he said. Of course, let us go.